go. Hello, welcome to the Unsung Game. Hello, welcome to the Unsung Game. I'm your host Rob. Welcome to Stream Streak Day 131, and I'm joined today by Jesper. Hello, sir.
Hello. Hi.
So you guys are very lucky to get to meet this man. I was very lucky to get to meet him when I was over in Sweden for Krigslundan. Oh, there we go. Podcast. That one is for you, podcast guys. Welcome. Wake up. That's what we're saying. Wake up. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. We're going to be talking today about loads of things. I want to say thank you to everyone that's watching on Patreon. Thank you to everyone who's joined us live and everyone listening to the podcast. Also, loads of love to you, Jesper. Where are you based? How you doing?
Hi, I'm just great. We're based in Järna, about 40 minutes south of Stockholm here in Sweden. Sitting in the clubhouse at the moment where two guys just played a game and another guy sitting here building his Skaven army. And I'm going to have a game later on here.
And what are you going to be playing with?
I'm thinking about corn today.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know if you can see in the background here on the shelf behind me, we get a lot of different cases. Mm-hmm. I think we have around 10 armies with around 2,000 to 2,500 points in each box. Wow. Ready to go.
So are they club armies?
It's a few of us that leaves our army here all the time, and for anyone who wants to play them, just go ahead.
Oh, that's awesome! I got so many questions already to ask about that. But so, are you? Is it right? I'm right in thinking you guys are near Gothenburg. Is that right?
No, Stockholm.
Stockholm. No, different. Yeah. Okay, all right. I got confused then. I thought I was talking about you guys. I've been talking about you guys since I met you guys, and I was attributing you guys to being from Gothenburg. So, screw those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the good side of Sweden. We're not that good.
Hello, everyone. So hello everyone in the chat. Thanks for being here. Appreciate loads. Walk me through your club. What's it called? Where's it located? How many people? Like, what's the situation?
So the club is at the moment in the startup phase to be a real club. So we can apply for funding and such from the commune and such. Mm-hmm. And at the moment, I think we're 8 people trying to figure stuff out together. And we have a meeting here in about 2 weeks where we're going to set the club for it. And we are around 3-4 of us that's very competitive gamers. And 4 others that's more for fun. And it's a nice place. We're trying to get a stream up, so we're going to try and do bat reps and stream our games that we play here in the evenings and such.
Okay, all right. What's the funding look like? Is there some sort of like some sort of initiative by the government or something? If you do,
if you have a club, you can get if we want to rent a house to do a bigger tournament, you get a bit of discount for that. And things like that mostly.
Oh, that's
awesome.
It's
easier as well if we have our own club that we can go to a hotel and try to bargain with them for rooms and everything.
Okay.
Everything becomes easier when you're a legit firm that do it pretty much.
Yeah, I get that. That makes loads of sense. Have you how did the crew come together? How did you guys form the team?
We formed pretty much me and 3-4 other guys were already playing together in Nyköping. Ulf, Lillen, and Thomas. Thomas that won Krigslundan. Mm. And after that, we found those guys in Järna here. That's a newly started group that started playing. And we got along pretty well. So we decided to join forces.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Because he won Krigslundan with Selesky's host for Slanesh, right? Before the nerf.
Before the nerf. It was funny. He faced Frederick in the last round, and he just took his army box and flipped it upside down on the table. And here's my summoning, because Frederick played his ogre Maw tribe with 3 times 12 gluttons.
Yes, it was amazing because you just played. Because so you played on the stream when I was over at Krigsluntan with
Oh
your
yeah,
Legion of Grief, right?
correct.
Versus those gluttons, which was a really really fun game.
Yeah, I don't remember that much from it, but it was fun. I was kind of drunk.
Yeah, I think that's basically most of you,
Yeah.
from what I've seen. So like, what's the idea with the formation of the club? Is the idea to like get more in your local community, or is it just to expand what you guys are doing yourselves?
To begin with, it was just to expand for ourselves to have a better community with the people we had. But nowadays, we try to do host tournaments and we try to make a bigger stage here in Sweden.
Hmm.
And we've also started to communicate with Gothenburg in the south and Umeå up in the north about doing some sort of Swedish championship together.
Hmm.
So they have a playoff stage in each part of Sweden, and you qualify for a grand weekend of some kind.
Hmm.
So it's on the build up to a Swedish championship.
That's very fun. That's very fun because the Swedish community is actually pretty, like Krigsluntan, which I don't
100
think
players.
100 players. Is it going ahead this year?
No, they actually canceled this year since of the corona.
Hmm. That's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah,
But
it's sad, but I understand it.
yeah, but like I mean, the fact that it was 100 players is pretty good. Like, there's some countries will be like, wow, that's pretty impressive. So there's a very active Age of Sigmar scene over
We
in
have
Sweden, right?
very good players all in all.
It's true.
Uh, so it's really fun. The biggest trouble we have is that it's a quite traveling distance from north of Sweden to south of Sweden. Then that's the plan for this Swedish championship, that you qualify for your region and then you only have to travel for one event for the Swedish championship.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to do. I remember speaking to Jonathan when I was over, and he was saying that I didn't really understand how far Ume was away, but he
Yeah,
said he'd rather travel to England than travel north.
it's actually easier to go to England than to the north of Sweden if you live down south.
Which is weird.
Yeah,
Are those guys weirdos or are they all right?
they're quite well. They got the moonshine and everything up there, so they are settled.
Good. So before we get into talking about, because one of the things that I think Jesper can talk to us about, because you guys have built a very unique tournament that just occurred recently. So I'd like
Yeah.
to ask. So I'd love to ask some questions about that. But before we do, find out a little bit about you. When did you start playing Warhammer?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually played Fantasy Battles in 6th edition. I was about 14 years old when I quitted that
Mm.
thing. And then about 1.5 year ago, Thomas, my best friend, his kid E-Ray that you saw playing versus Oscar,
Oh yeah.
he got into the age that we could actually fool him into playing this. So actually, him and I could actually start playing again. So it was mostly like, thank you, Thomas, for having kids. Now we can start being kids again.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was great. And after that, it just took off. I play competitively and I enjoy it. I used to play chess and poker a lot with my father as a kid. So I love the strategy
Mm.
part
Do you
of the
see?
game.
Do you see a lot of comparison, like, or do you see any similarities between chess and poker to the game?
I do actually. Chess for the strategy and poker for the odds and everything like that if you are a gambler.
Mm.
So it's a good mix between those two.
Yeah, I actually to do some commentary, I actually ended up watching both chess and poker. Oddly, as
All
some
right.
of as some of my research, and I found the poker one's a bit weird because they're a bit sometimes quite Americanized. But there's also like it's a lot of like Warhammer is open, isn't it? Where chess is closed, not chess, sorry, poker's closed, where they're all trying to bluff each other. But there is a little bit about that in Warhammer as well, where you're like, maybe I'm going over there, but actually I'm going to go do this other thing. Like it's sometimes quite telegraphed, but
all of it's like I'm gonna put a non-important character for me at the moment out here as a bait for you to just it's a hero. Can I kill him? And I'm sitting there. Go for it. Go for it. Leave the other guys alone.
Yep, yeah. So I think there's actually something to be learned there. And chess is also really interesting when we come and talk to you about your tournament, because obviously chess allows no takebacks. Once you take your finger off the model, then you're done.
The move is done.
The move is done. How do you? So you integrated that into a pack for a tournament. Like, was it because of chess that you did that?
It wasn't because of the chess. It was because of trying something new, trying to get it how it should be played, I think. Like, you really need to know what your army does and what auras of effect everything has, and you shouldn't be able to take things back. And also we implemented that we couldn't move trees in a forest and such things that people often do. So if there was a tree in the forest, you were not allowed to move it at all. And also we played with a lot of buildings that you could garrison.
Okay.
So not only the terrain piece from Seraphon nowadays, but we actually implemented big buildings like arcane towers and such that you could garrison. And we made a house ruling for the garrison as well, that you could only have 20 models and no monsters or behemoth could garrison, and also that you did not get the lookout sir rule inside a garrison.
Okay, so the event that we're talking about. So you guys hosted an event. When was it? 2 weekends ago?
Last weekend, actually.
Oh, last weekend. And how many
Last week.
people? How many people attended?
24 players.
24 players. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was. I think the really interesting thing about this, other than obviously all of you guys are pretty interesting. I've always had a bit of a crush on all of you.
Thanks.
Oh, it's obvious that you guys are great.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that you guys have taken like you've approached the tournament format very differently to how like the standard Games Workshop missions, right? And you haven't been scared about adding comp. In Sweden, it's always felt like, especially with my conversation with Jonathan, it hasn't felt like you guys are ever bothered about doing what everyone else is doing. You just want to do the best version of what you can do. Like, was that the idea for the tournament? Like, how did it come about? Like, what was the idea to start it all off?
It was planned from the beginning as just a fun tournament in the middle of the summer to say goodbye to GHB 2019. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to do something really crazy about it. So the first thing we did was that we had no time schedule at all.
Okay.
So if the players wanted to play until... We had a group stage first. That was the thing. So there was 4 players per group. So we had 6 groups of 4 players. Mm-hmm. And they did a round robin inside that group. And the group decided what time and who was going to play who and everything like that. So I just gave the group the paper, fill this out when you're done, and come back to me. So I didn't care. They got to do everything in their own pace. And the winner of each group advanced to playoff A finals, and the 2 best second placed also finished in playoff A. And then we had the B playoff and C playoff for the rest of them, with quarterfinals, semifinal, and finals. So day 1, I think the last game ended at around midnight.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
It was fun because everybody was drinking and having a good time, so nobody really cared about the time. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna do this next year again. A bit more structurized about the times, I think, then.
Did it end up being a bit of a disaster with how much time, or not really?
Day one, not really. It was day two because the final in group stage A, where the winner of the World Cup was decided, ended around midnight as well.
Okay, on the Sunday, midnight on
On
Sunday.
this midnight on Sunday.
Jeez,
And that's why we placed this in the summer as well, because everybody is on a vacation and such, and they have the time to do
Okay.
this.
So
So that's
everyone knew it might go on for that long, and they decided they already booked off the Monday, etc.
everybody should have known, but they didn't really figure it out until it was too late. So that's why we're going to be a bit more structured next year.
There's a couple of TOs in the chat who are like, "Fuck doing that. That's wild."
Well, we had a great time, and it's went good, I must say.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, because everybody was happy with the ending and everything like that. So day one was free play mostly, but
Okay.
you filled out the results and to know which stage in the playoff you were gonna end off in. And for the 3 games in the group stage as well, everybody was playing focal points. So you had the same mission in 3 games.
Okay. So wait, so
So,
you played the same. You said so. Let me get this right. I'm in a group, so I'm a
yep,
player in a group, and then I play the same mission 3 times against different people.
correct. And this we did to get the most fair result in the group stage.
Mm-hmm.
So an army didn't get on, say, places of arcane power versus a player who has no game in that one.
Yes.
So that's why we had the same mission. And focal point in last general handbook seemed like the most even mission, I must say.
Yep. I think so.
And we also did the house call on where the objectives were placed. So it was a bit wider instead of where they should have been.
Oh, so you even moved the objectives around?
Yeah, a little bit, because it had a weird ruling on that one in last GHB.
What about where they are?
Where they are, because it was on the 12-inch line and a diagonal 18 across from the middle, so it was hard to place it. Now we just said 20 inches in from the side and 12-inch up, and
Okay.
one in the middle as well. So and all of the objectives were pre-placed with a little sticker on the tables as well. So it was really easy for the players to just go in and play the game.
Okay. Oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I really like what you did with trying to get the fairest result. Obviously, that's something that we've put in with the Super Series, where
Yeah,
like a team has to play the same team. There'll be different battle plans every round, but they all have to play. The team has to play each other 3 times basically to get the better team. Hopefully, like
yeah,
that seems to make sense because in some matches you it can just be because of the matchup or the scenario a lot more than the player skill.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Go on after you.
And for tiebreakers as well, we did not use any agendas at all for the whole tournament. Instead, we did more like a football tournament. So the victory points you achieved in each game counted towards. So if you won a game with 21 to 17 victory points,
Mm.
you got +4 at the end result, and you got 3 points for the win. So you got 3 points for the win, like in soccer or anything.
Yeah.
And then the goal difference to say was that you're +4.
So
And
on the
this was
victory points.
on the victory points, yeah.
Okay. All
And
right.
those were in the end the tiebreakers. I got here the player with the best difference. He was +65.
Oh wow.
And the worst player was -62.
Do you want to call out the best and worst player?
Yeah, absolutely. The best player was Spain, who won the tournament in the end. It
Congratulations.
was Kasper Andersen from Denmark. And the worst player was David Einar. He played for St. Kitts and Nevis and a Ogre Mau tribe. And he just beat Zimbabwe, which Jonathan represented by 1 point.
Oh.
So Jonathan, he had negative 61 victory points.
I saw Jonathan's list. It was arguably one of the worst lists in Age of Sigmar I've ever seen.
Well, he's the best looking player in the scene, so it's a fair trade.
Yes, that's a
He
fair
came
trade.
here wearing a elephant pants suit like those you can get for a masquerade. But he thought it was too hot, so he ended up walking around in his underwear for the whole day one. It's a lovely sight.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
What did the winner play with? Like
he played Seraphon.
Mm.
And
Seraphon.
he played, I got the list here as well.
Oh, okay. Let's hear this.
He played Fangs of Sotek.
Right.
With Lord Croak, Astrolith Bearer, Skink Priest, Skink Star Priest, Star Master, who was the general with Arcane Might and Celestial Equilibrium. 40 skinks, 10 skinks, 10 skinks, salamanders, a full pack of them. He got the bound spell Geminids of Ulgish and Balewind Vortex and a spell portal.
Wow,
and
that's
1 extra command point.
How did he do it? How did he come up with the list? Is the real question.
I have no idea, actually. I think he was planning on just nuking the table with skinks and take it from there.
Yeah, thankfully all the other elements in that book are also brilliant all at the same time.
Yeah. I think he went with the skinks and buffed them with the mortal wound damage and just hope for the best.
Well, they're arguably even scarier than the salamanders, right?
They are.
And ogre mole tribes in last. That's interesting. So let me just get this right for the path to victory, because I'm a little bit not confused, but I'm just gonna. So I played day one. It was a group qualifier, and I played in my group. And then on day two, if I won my group, what happened then?
If you won your group, or if you were one of the best two, since we were not 32 players, which is the optimum goal for this tournament, then you go to final day, and you for the A group, and then you play a quarterfinal. Then if you win that one, you go to semifinal, and if you win that one, you go to the final.
Okay, and then what happens if I didn't win my group the day before?
Then you go to either B or C's playoff, quarterfinal, semifinal, and final as well, because the finalist that won in each group, he also win a free entry for next year's event.
Oh, okay.
So it was always something to play for, even if you finished last in your group, which, for example, St. Kitts and Nevis, he was the worst player of the whole thing. But he actually won the C final against Vatican City. So he got a free entry for next year.
So I think people might be getting a little bit confused right now. So all of the players were representing different nations at the event.
Correct. You get to submit which country you're going to represent with your list and which country you're going to represent. So we had Vatican City, he was walking around in a monk outfit all day. We had Spain, who was a bullfighter, for example. We had Uffe, who played North Korea. He had a small North Korean flag on every single model in his army. We had Tibet, who was also dressed up as a monk. We had India, who was walking around with a red dot in his forehead.
Okay.
We had Germany, who arrived with a gas mask and everything included.
Okay. Strong.
We had Iceland, who arrived with a axe and some cool Viking stuff. And so it was just as much a masquerade and just a fun time as it was a hard tournament.
Yeah. So you wanted everyone to play really hard, but you also wanted people to have as much fun as possible, right?
Correct, and that's why we didn't have any time schedule at all. Just
Do you,
go nuts, go crazy.
do you like? I wonder, like, for you personally, like, where do you think the line sits between no time, everyone dress up, have a giant laugh, and get drunk, and then that also the concept of a professional kind of like gaming event. I'm not saying that like I know that you tried to like mesh those two in the middle, and I think
Yeah.
that that's applicable. But obviously, if you scaled that up to like 200 people, that probably would be close to impossible. Oh, thanks, Jet Baker. Oh, Bradley, thanks for donating $10 to the show, babe.
I mean, to make it for 200 people, it's gonna be impossible. What we've said about next year is that we're gonna have a time schedule, but we're not gonna do it like the 2 hours, 3 hours. That's classic. We're gonna improve it to maybe 4 hours per game, and also if you're done with the games, you can start the next game early. Because in the group stage, day one, it doesn't really matter how long it takes.
Yes,
I
on
think
day one. Well,
on day
my
one.
question.
On
Yeah,
day two, it's gonna be more like this is the competitive scene and how it should be played. So maybe 3 hours, 3.5 per game.
yeah, okay, yeah, I see that. Where do you think other events, like something like Krigsluntan, which was far more traditional, was a kind of event in my mind? Like, do you think that that is the like the most like? Do you think that's the most serious it should ever get, or do you think that like there's a level beyond that, and then there's like because I think one of the things for me. Oh, thanks, Bradley. I think one of the things for me is had a conversation earlier in the week is I would like to see more events like this, which is why we're talking, which is great.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more events where people are just doing something completely different. You're like, it's a competitive event, but everyone was drunk, dressed up, like it's a
Yep.
thing, and then it's not really comparable to, let's say, a 100-man, 200 event, whatever that does a thing. But it's like you're trying to create something for people, and I think that's really great. Like, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah,
do you,
I got you. I got you.
yeah.
I think the biggest trouble for bigger tournaments is that it's gonna be a unfair matchup in the beginning because some people go to these tournaments with the intention of not winning a single game but just going there for a fun time. And that's the hard issue I got with the bigger tournaments, that I might get 2 or 3 out the wins because my opponent is there to have a good time.
Mhm.
And in this case that we did it, it was going to be a C final stage as well as a grand stage, where you separate them in the group stage to see where they are going to end up. But I don't have any trouble at all with the big tournaments as well, because that's what I play mostly, but this was more of a fun thing that we're going to do every year now.
Mhm.
So we're going to do this one on repeat, and for the players who want to do this for a fun time, it's a different way to go. I
Well,
think it's good to have a lot of different choices when you go to a tournament.
mm. Do you think
So
that? So my question, like, I completely mirror what your thoughts are. Where you go to like a bigger event, but like there's a lot of people there just for fun, and you feel like you've come a bit too aggressively to the event, right? Like
yeah,
you've come a bit too seriously. Do you think that there's the option for those larger events to maybe diversify and run two events at once, and just be like, I want to be there for the competitive, I want to be there for the fun. Like, do you know what I mean? Because
uh, I get you, and I don't think it's possible at the moment to separate where the fun is and where the competitive is.
hmm
I think that will separate itself after 2 games in the big tournaments.
Okay.
The biggest problem you have with the big tournaments is people dropping off after day one if they did not play as well as they intended to.
Mm.
And they are going to be like, oh, screw it, I'm not going there for day two.
That is bad. That is bad. They
Yep.
have a rule for that in Australia, at least,
All right.
where like like where they're just like your score becomes zero, and we won't invite you back to the next event.
All right.
Which is which is pretty strong. But like, it's led to like, and those guys like to drink, like you guys like to drink. So it's led to guys, like, it's led to guys like turning up Sunday morning, like saying hello to their opponent, shaking their hand and say you win, and then just sleeping under the table.
Well, you can still play the game.
You could. I think they're not in any state to play the game. I think it's the
Well,
issue.
I wasn't, but I did it anyway. I lost, but hey, you do what you gotta do.
Yeah, you do. So you have plans to expand for next year, is that right?
Yeah, we have plans for it, and we're gonna aim for at least 32 players, because then we got the best 8 or the 8 group winners go to playoff for the A, and then the best 2s go to a separate playoff and such.
Okay.
So that's the thought for next year, minimum 32, and we expand it by 8 every time, so we get the quarterfinals correct.
Right. Yeah, I see. Yeah, that makes loads of sense, and it is honestly really exciting. I think that's a really really fun format. Have you got any other like fun formats you think that could be out there? I'm sure there's loads percolating around the club.
I'll come to that, and we're actually doing a second fun format at the moment as well. But to end off with the World Cup that was as well,
Oh yeah, please.
it's that everybody had something to play for, even if you were losing the first game. That's the big difference compared to a normal tournament, I'd say. Because if you won the quarterfinal, semifinal, and final for your group, even if you were in the dead last group, you got the free entry, and you also got to pick a prize from the table, which was quite nice boost this time.
Really? That's
Yeah.
fun. What prizes were available?
We had whiskey, gin, we had, I can't even remember because I drank half of it. I was going to say, but it was a nice price table with a lot of different drinks mostly, and also that you won the free entry for next year.
Which is
And
important.
yeah, and Spain has to come back like next year as well, because he got the trophy that's gonna be a round trophy. So he gets to keep it for a year, nothing more, nothing less.
And what's the trophy? Oh, the winning
The
trophy.
Yeah, I don't know. Got a picture of it, but I can't really send you that one, I think, at the moment.
But we'll put it up on Twitter. I can do that later.
Yeah, I'll send it to you later.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be fun.
Also, we had a fun ruling that if somebody changed their list or missed anything, they had to pay a bottle of booze in punishment. So I got a few bottles of booze
Oh,
from
really?
people missing deadline and such.
So so there was actual punishment for making mistakes.
It was actually.
That's good.
And
That's a good. That's a good. To should do that more.
yeah. So
That
I got one bottle of tequila, which was really nice, and one bottle of snaps.
which was not nice. It was fine.
It's quite well. After the bottle of tequila, you can't really taste the snaps anymore. So
Actually, I haven't. Let's go back to the World Cup. I'm sorry because I forgot to actually ask. Because one of the things that because you had some house rules, right? Which we haven't covered. And sorry about that. And one of the house rules was no takebacks, which is pretty massive.
yeah, that's the biggest part of the tournament, because if you missed a bubble or an aura of effect or anything like that, you could not move around your miniatures anymore. And we also have a few other rules, like all dices need to be flat on the mat. So even if it was up on the train and laying flat, you had to re-roll it. But no takebacks is the biggest thing. That if you drop a guy, or when you're moving a unit, you can fine adjust the unit, but when you start the next model or anything like that, you're done with the previous unit.
Wow. Okay.
And also, if you had to be clarifying whenever you left the start of a phase or anything like that. For example, if you forgot to try and unbind or dispel an endless spell at the start of the hero phase,
Yep.
you could not go back and try again.
Wow. Okay.
S
Like, so it wasn't so much like, because in a lot of tournaments, it's just decided between you and your opponent a lot of the time. You know,
yeah.
you say to your opponent, "Do you mind if I?" And then your opponent's like, "Yeah." But in this situation, it was cast iron. You're not even allowed to ask.
You are not allowed to ask because we want to get rid of the douchebag, or if you do a mistake and it's gonna affect the game pretty much, and you ask me if you can redo something, I'm not gonna be the asshole to say no, you can't,
Right.
or nobody wants to be that asshole, even though they really, really want to say no, you can't.
Okay.
And we got rid of that by just saying you can't do takebacks.
So you can't ask for takebacks was the kind of general consensus. That's actually really really awesome. Like it's
That's
I
correct.
mean it's like it's harsh, but
It's
also like it.
harsh.
But it's also what you're doing there is as a TO is you're giving the players some strength in like just saying, well, I'm not going to ask, and you know ahead of time, right? You know
Yeah,
before you play. Yeah.
correct.
Did that work well?
It worked quite well, I think. A few people didn't like it as much, but I think they also missed point 7 in the house calls or house ruling, because we also put in a small verifier for this one that if the opponent didn't know about the rules or something like that, give him the benefit of the doubt to redo one thing and learn from that time.
Right. Okay.
So if a player wasn't aware that you have to unbind or dispel in the start of the hero phase, teach him, be friendly in that way, but next time, remember this for next time at least.
Yes. Yeah, that seems very fair. See, in the chat, I like the rule. It's going to get people making sure they know the rules and paying attention. Which
Yeah,
also, again, what we're doing is Jesper's saying that he was making people that were dressed as priests, yeah, while half cut on tequila, yeah. So you know, to play at a semi just serious level. Like, so he's not saying turn up and if you haven't read a book, then they're going to throw you out on your ear. Like, it's clearly meant to be really, really. We had this conversation the other day, Jesper, where I said the very minimum you could do is just prepare to play your army. At least know all your rules. You know, you could be
correct.
brand new. You could be brand new and never have played, but you could have learnt all your rules and you could know all how the game works and therefore play a game against someone. But if you turn up and you don't know much and you're kind of hoping someone will help you through it, I don't think that's overly fair, right?
Correct. And for me to actually implement this ruling was from me playing Legion of Grief and doing it really good.
Mm,
Because in that army I had so many auras and like holy within this and that all the time.
mm,
And I want everybody to play the game in a competitive level to know their auras and don't forget about it, because it's going to implement or impact the game so much. Take, for example, Siege at the moment. If you play the internal conflagration with the 9-inch aura to get +1 to wound,
yep.
while you have the 12-inch aura to be -1 to hit.
Hmm.
I mean, if you mix those up and place yourself outside of the buffing aura, and you forget about it, you should not be able to like take back the move, because it's up to you to know the aura.
Yes.
And with that arm in particular, it's going to impact the game so much if you get this +1 to wound instead
It's
of just
huge.
being -1 to hit you instead.
Yeah, yeah. It's really, really, really important. Like having characters within range for inspiring presence is always a big one for me. You know, someone's like,
Correct.
oh, I'll spend a CP on them. I'm like, where's your character? Like Owen, actually, who's in the chat right now, helped me out a bunch recently. Because one of the things that I don't think I've ever been not particularly good at, but like I could definitely neaten up on is when I'm piling in a very long unit and there's like a unit halfway across the board, but that is actually closer to half of my unit than the other bit. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's a bit you're like, oh, actually, where's the point on that? And I noticed that in a couple of my games, so I've tried to tighten that element up a bit.
Hmm?
But there's so much you can learn about the micromanagement of the little models on the board. So it's good that you put that in place.
Yeah.
I like. Do you think that's something you like to see carried into larger events? Do you think?
I would love to have that in the tournament scene overall, that if you play competitively, it's no takebacks. And for both players to more like play on intention than play with takebacks.
Yes.
So if I say that I'm gonna place it and it's 9.2 or 9 inches, like then you can actually move it back 0.2 inches instead of like just placing it and hope for it to be.
Yeah, yeah. I hope.
Because
What?
I mean the eye measurement you have is quite good at this point,
Yeah.
but you still fuck up sometimes.
Yeah, you do, and sometimes it's a lot of measuring. Like in the chat is talking about corn, for example. There's a lot of wholly within. Safe Darkness was the same situation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that, and so you do have to focus. And I think that's actually really important. Were there any other house rules that we saw in place?
We had let's see, I got it here. No terrain will be movable. So, for example, if you had a wood, you could not take the tree and just place it to the side because you want to move your model there.
Yeah.
That's one of the classical that people just move around. And we placed fewer trees on each terrain piece, so it would impact the games. You could not take a Mark Rush and place it in the middle of the forest in
Okay.
some cases, for
Yeah, yeah.
example.
Did you feel that impacted the units, or was it fine?
In a few games, it did impact because you could not charge and string line because there was a tree in the way and things like that. And we also did a house rule for 2D viewing of bases. So normally when you climb a tower, you place models underneath each other all the time.
Yes.
And we did that. No bases are allowed to cross each other in a 2D view, which impacted a lot when you try to climb a bigger tower or get models into something like that.
Yeah. That's
So
actually
it's
really really important because some of you might not know there's some real weird interactions with the fly keyword
yeah,
and teleporting and resetting up and other stuff. I actually think viewing the game in a 2D space for the it's also especially odd as well when like a chariot is like I'm halfway up this building and you're like
yeah,
chariots can't climb buildings, dude. Like that doesn't make any
correct.
sense. So like I like the idea. I actually think impassable terrain, and if you guys don't know what I mean by that, effectively imagine just zones on the board where your models can't go. I actually think that really impacts the game in a really positive way because you're like, oh, actually that is an alley of death, or that's like I think it adds to the tactics, doesn't take away from it. That's my
Yeah.
feelings.
And we got the impossible terrain because we had a lot of buildings with the garrison rule on it,
Right.
which becomes impossible terrain because you can't walk on a garrisonable terrain feature.
Yeah.
The only thing you can do is fly over it,
Yeah.
and it's easy to block the opponent from going into the garrison. Just have one model within 3 inches of it,
And then
and
he
he
can't go in.
can't go in because he will end up his move within 3 inches. So garrison was really a big play for this tournament.
And do you think you would keep that? Like, and would you like to see that again in competitive events?
Yeah, I would love to see garrisons.
What do you think it would do? Like what is it like? What effect? Like, which armies would it impact? Like, sort of thing.
It would impact the -1 to hit, for example, a lot. So the shooting armies would be harder to, or they would have a harder time since they are the meta at the moment. And also the walking around will impact a lot. And the fact that you can't be in the garrison and still within 6 inches of an objective.
Yes.
That one is great as well. And our house rule for this was also that no behemoth or monster can be inside a garrison.
Which makes loads of sense and should be a core rule.
It should
Like,
be.
It should be a core rule.
It should be. Otherwise, I'm just gonna take my Lord of Change, put him in this garrison, and he's gonna be there forever.
Yeah, he is. Because he's -1 to hit already in combat, right? So, like, that's -2 now.
Yeah, and if Eternal Conflagration, it's -1 from shooting as well most often. So you're -2 to shoot him.
Good! Yeah, I'll take that.
And we also did a maximum of 20 models per garrison, and if you had a hero inside the garrison, he would not benefit from the Lookout Sir rule, since he is already -1 to hit.
So you can't double up on... So you can't try and put a character in a garrison and make him -2 to hit?
No, I thought that was too much of a joke.
Yeah.
Because when you shoot the building, you shoot random and you're -1 to hit everything inside it.
Yeah, of course. You're not aiming at something specifically, yeah.
No, you just try to hit the fucking building. And hope for the best.
Well, the windows is the main plan, right?
Yeah, precisely. And I think it's hard for a guy that's standing on the bottom floor of a building to actually, oh no, look out, sir, I'm gonna run up there. And the arrow has already hit the dude.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, yeah. Any others? Because these are all really interesting. Twitch chat, what do you think? And also, if you're watching YouTube, I'd love you to leave some comments on what your thoughts are on some of these, because I think they're really fun. I might, really good, really fun. Thanks, Jesper, for telling us. Are there any others?
There's a few that I actually deleted from the house rules, because we have another house ruling on a other tournament we have going simultaneously, pretty much. And a few of these rulings were for the World Cup and will not be implemented on our normal basic days. But another that made a huge impact for people to be willing to come and play with whatever they thought was the funniest thing to play. We had no demands on painting.
Ooh, okay. And how did that go?
It went well. A few people came with unpainted armies, and it's mostly because they didn't have the time, or they wanted to try something new. They just bought the army or something like that. And this we have implemented in all our tournaments that we arrange. But the only thing we take away from them is that they can't win anything like best painted or coolest army. And this is because we want people to try something new all the time, and we think that people don't have the time always. Like, if you got 4 kids or something, you spend the time with the kids, paint whenever you got the time, play your army gray if you need to.
Yeah. I think I actually I don't. So you couldn't win best sports, you couldn't win best painted, but you could win the event.
You can win the event with a gray army, but you can't win best coolest army or anything else.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Because in the long term, it's not the paint that wins the army; it's the army composition and you as a general.
It's only about how you play, right? It's not about how it looks. Yeah, it is.
Correct.
I mean, people
Although we do actually want players to have a cool painted army, but if you don't have the time, you don't.
You don't have the time. That's true. Do you think that's is it because of a lack of players around you, or it's just that? It's just some people don't have the time, but you still want them to be there.
Some people don't have the time, and some people stress paint their army to a level that's not appropriate for their skills, to say, just because they want to bring it to a tournament. When we do it like this, you get the time to do whatever you want with your army, and go ahead. Take your time. Don't stress anything and need to go back.
I think that's actually really good. I hate the idea of there being tournaments where they specifically say like, you don't have to paint your armies for this. Like, I would love to see what the meta would look like then. Like, I know a lot of people in the chat will be like, I hate that, and I understand why.
Same here.
I do understand, but I also recognize what you're saying, and I think it's a valuable conversation we should have as a community. Just be like, I don't have tons of time, but I've spent 800 quid on this army or whatever it might be, and it's going to take me a year to paint at the time I've got, at which point it might be unusable.
Yeah,
like...
precisely. Next FAQ is gonna fuck your army over and you can't play it anymore. And then you're sitting there with 800 quids of plastic that nobody wants anymore.
Exactly. And I do like the idea, because I felt that. I have units. My Saurus Astroloth Banner Bearer I can only describe as a crime. He is a crime. It's a beautiful model that's got an ugly paint job. But I needed it for a tournament, so he just got sprayed and washed and dry brushed.
Yeah.
This is a long time ago, and it's a great model, and I would really like to do a really, really good job on that.
Yeah.
But restraints with wanting to put it on the table and actually play with it means I've got to get it done into a half-assed job. So, it's a good conversation, definitely. Yeah. So,
and that's, at least for this year, we had that. We didn't have any demands on the World Cup, at least. Next year, I think we're gonna have for the World Cup, because, like I said, we're doing other tournament going side by side with this one. Over time. But let me tell you a last thing about the World Cup as well.
Please do.
For the quarterfinals, semifinal, and finals, all games missions were rolled by the players.
Oh, okay. You
So
didn't
it
choose
wasn't. I didn't choose anything. So for the quarterfinals, everybody could play different missions.
Interesting.
And this was to take from the group stage that in the group stage, to qualify for which playoff group you're going to be in, you will have the same conditions for everybody.
Yes.
But then in the quarterfinals and everything changed, because then we need to know who built the most flexible army to withstand any mission thrown at you.
And they couldn't plan ahead of time. Hey, Hook and
They
Pin, by the way.
couldn't plan ahead on time. They got to the table, they rolled a mission, and they have the game to actually figure out which mission and how to play it. So you can't stand like, when you know who you're gonna play in the quarterfinal, you can't stand there like, oh, we're gonna play Total Commitment, and just read up on your opponent and plan the strategy ahead. Now you go to the table and you roll the mission and you have to plan on the spot.
That's that's good. That's good. And it happens right there and then. You've got to deal with it. Also, if you've come prepared, like if you've learned what all the missions are, if you know what your army's going to do in those missions, you've got more of an advantage in that situation.
Correct.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, that's interesting, actually. I know, so I oftentimes have advocated for telling missions ahead of time in tournament packs. And that my reasoning for that has always been that actually sometimes, depending on the mission loadout, you could just build the wrong army.
Yeah.
Depending on the mission loadout. And some armies, and you might have the choice of two armies. You might be like, I'm going for this army or that army. And then you see the missions, you think, well, this army can't even really play in those missions, so I'll choose this army. So, I think that gives you, as like a ticket buyer, that gives you like a bit of an advantage to be like, I want to take. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, actually, I won't go to that event because my one army that I play doesn't work in this particular setup.
I'm against that. The missions beforehand. I think you should be placed on the spot. That's my opinion. Like, I shouldn't sit and prepare for the mission and read my opponent's army. I should be put on the spot at the table.
Okay.
Because I think that's most fair towards both players, because if I'm a better reader and everything like that, I'm going to have an advantage knowing when coming to the table. I mean, like, I can plan for my setup.
Yeah.
And somehow I can't see that, all right, guys, let's see this from the army's view now. Let's say my army is out on a march, like walking around, having a good time. Oh, look, there's another army. I know we're gonna face them on focal points, and I know his army list from before. That never happens in real Age of Sigmar world, I think.
That's true.
It's not like Khorne Tech Siege, like, hi guys, can we do a fight in focal points around 6 on Saturday? 2,000 points. Here's my army list I'm gonna play. Can I have a look at yours as well? So I don't think that's appropriate for what we're actually doing. I think you should be placed on the spot more.
I feel that the problem with that is that's just my Englishness. You know, like that was pretty much how we did battle for like 200 years. We just turned up with some line infantry. We were like, "What ho? Meet you in the field at dawn." It's like, "Hello."
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a me thing maybe. And then you guys have got. You said you got another event coming up.
Oh yeah, we do a tournament that we call King of the Asylum, since our gaming club is called Asylum Wargaming. So King of the Asylum is a 6 tournaments, 6 different one-day event. 12 players per event. We increased that to 14 because we had a high pressure on that one.
Oh, cool.
And you get a winner for each tournament who gets a certain tournament points at the end.
Yeah.
So if you win a tournament, you get 12 points, say. And at the end of the year, if you attended like 5 tournaments from this one-day event, you get to count the 3 best tournament placements for the year's total.
Okay.
So you can win the certain event and get a prize for that. But at the end of the year, the one who has the highest collected tournament points wins the title King of the Asylum for the year.
Fun.
Yeah.
And what's the prize? Is that it's just like a big trophy?
It's going to be a trophy that's you get to keep for a year. For each individual tournament, we have a prize table for 4 or 5 prizes as well, which has been so far a starter box and a nice model of some kind, a pencil for the best painted or coolest, and we do not the coolest army all the time or best painted army. You can do single model from the army and everything like that, or coolest regiment. So we have a different painting for each tournament as well.
Okay.
But the funniest part about this one is that we set off a certain amount for the year in total. So we're going to have a players party after that one where we divide the prizes and everything like that. So,
okay. So, and give them out randomly?
Yeah, not randomly, because the winner gets to choose first and such. So we have a prize table, and the winner gets to pick what he wants from the prize table first, then the second, third, and a separate prize for the best painted.
Awesome. That's really awesome. That's fun.
And also, if you win, say, episode 1 out of the 6 episodes, you get a free entry for episode 2 as well. And in episode 2, if somebody faces you in a match and he wins, he gets some extra points for bringing down the last winner.
Oh, okay. So if Kingmaker, so if you kill the king, then you get some bonus points.
Yeah.
That's very Swedish of you.
Yeah. Kill the king.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's fun.
So
and when does that start? When does that start?
That one we started already. So we're going to have episode 2 of that going the 15th of August.
Oh, awesome. So very soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first one there, Joel, that ended up second in World Cup, he won the first episode. So this was his first loss in tournament now, in the final of World Cup. He's a bit sad.
So do you have any advice? Just looking at the time, so we'll get towards the end now. So if anyone's got any questions, please let us know. Have you got any advice for people that want to break away from the norm and run events that they think is right? Of is this going to be the comp system for all of Sweden, or is this just you guys, or what's the kind of?
This is just us.
Okay.
We like to try something, and we think that people are too afraid to actually do anything outside the box, so to say.
Yep.
For example, to take the new realms, I've already house ruled that realm of metal or shaman. The spell you get in there is +1 to save.
Mm-hmm.
That's already gone from our tournament scene. It's gonna be you pick an enemy within 18 instead, and you give them -1 to save.
Right. Okay. Because +1 to save is a bit strong.
It's a bit strong, especially since a lot of armies have a good save, or you just want to make one single model unkillable, Archeon, Nagash, everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Me, for example, I used to play the Osiarch Bone Reapers Petrifex Elite with Nagash, and was undefeated with that list for 13 tournament matches, I think. Yeah, 13
Wow.
matches in tournament. So I won the Battle of Copenhagen. I won Jontes last tournament in Linköping. And I won one of Krigsluntan one-day events here in Sweden as well. And from the beginning, you can just tell that that spell is going to be too strong. And even if you don't play Petrifex Elite, you just jump over to Mortis Praetorians with Catacross, and you get that spell again, and you're up to a 2+ save on the Morty card. It's
Yeah.
gonna be ridiculous.
It is.
By that point, I'd rather have that the enemy can give your Petrifex Elite Morty card -1 to their saves.
Yeah, it's way better. Like, and also is more like interactive. My question, my final question, I think, is where do you see the meta at the minute? Like, how do you rate it? Obviously, FAQ's out now. Like, what do you think?
FAQs are out. I think they did a good job on it all in all. I think that the Seraphon, since they didn't get a good time in the tournament scene, since everything has been on lockdown, they couldn't really do anything more about it than they actually did.
Okay.
So with the amount of information they had, they did a good job. And the new General's Handbook is a great book as well, I think, so far.
Yeah, I think
So,
the missions are really good. I do think
oh,
that
they,
I think a bit like with you've just described with the Realm of Metal. I think you probably could see Croak just at reading it and think that that needs looking at.
yeah.
But yeah, that would be the one misstep I think that they maybe made.
Yeah. Otherwise, I like it. It's a good meta at the moment. The meta top is Seraphon. It's gonna be Siege. I think that once people figure out that they are gonna play Mortis Praetorians instead of Petrifex Elite, Bone Reapers are gonna jump up there again. I think that the Eels Idoneth are gonna have a upswing in the meta,
Hmm.
because they can counter the heavy shooting armies, but they are gonna fall towards Iron Jaws and Big Wog lists.
Interesting. You know what you think they? So you think that they? Yeah, because I don't. I think they're gatekeepers, if only the Idneth. Like
Yeah.
they hold people back. They don't necessarily take out the tournament. Oftentimes.
No, they don't win it, but they are gonna screw people over.
Yeah.
And next thing is the Lumineth, where they are gonna end up. My prediction for them was a mid-tier army, which I stand firm with thinking they are.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you can spam the archers, 70 of them, and try to delete everything. And we haven't seen a FAQ for them. We haven't seen the whole range on the table.
No, we haven't. We haven't. There was just an event in Poland, one day only though, where someone did end up winning with 80 archers. I think was the list. But
Yeah,
again, I think that there's some ways around that, definitely. So I would agree. I think there's a lot of like rock paper scissors to the game.
it is.
And as a long-time Croak fan, I'm very happy and fine. So
I can understand that. I can.
well,
But
listen. Oh, go on after you.
I like the way that everything is going now. I think it's going to be a great year, and we're already looking forward to big tournaments here.
Well, good. And we haven't even yet. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I've got to go. We haven't even covered the fact that you were able to live stream some of those games and you're able to watch them. But
Yeah,
I'll include that in the show notes below. How did you find that experience?
it was rough since I was TU at the same time. I lost my padre in my comrade that should have streamed with me since he had to jump in as a last minute dropout. And it was rough. I had great technical help from one of the players from the Vatican City. They are helpful people,
Good.
monks and everything like that. They need to be friendly, you know.
They
Go
do.
to hell
They
otherwise. No, but I had a great time and a great first try at it, and seemed like people enjoyed it. And we're gonna try to do some bat reps and everything like that here in the future as well.
Oh, very fun. Well, I'll include those in the show notes for people to go and check out. Jesper, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being on the show. Again, if you guys want to get in touch with Jesper, I'll include all that below, so you can talk to him and join in. And having been over to Sweden only the one time, they're all brilliant.
Oh,
blokes.
I hope to see you here next year for World Cup.
Oh yes, if I can travel there, I'm in. Like that'll become.
And I want to see you as a player then.
Okay, no problem. I'll dress up as
So-
an English line infantryman. That's my plan.
Oh. Yeah. Don't do the archer because then you have to cut 2 fingers off.
Yeah, I won't do that. I won't do that. But yeah, I would love to. I would love to. Don't get me wrong. All right, well, pleasure. Everyone, thank you very much, Jesper, for being on the show. Thanks, everyone, for watching live. Hope you have a great Sunday, and the rest of the week is really, really good. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Stay hydrated. And thank you to everyone on the Wargamer Patreon. Thank you enough. See you guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.